911, what is the address of the emergency?
Oh, my wife's been murdered.
What address is this at?
3466 South 700 East.
Okay, repeat the address for verification. Okay.
Pardon? 3466 South 700 East.
And what city are you in?
Salt Lake.
Are you in South Salt Lake?
Yes.
Okay, what's the phone number you're calling from?
I come home, my wife's been murdered. Pair of scissors sticking.
On November 30th, 2010, authorities in South Salt Lake, Utah received a distressing 911 call from Earl Black, informing them about the murder of his wife, Sherry Black. 64-year-old Sherry had been working at the bookstore they owned when she was mercilessly stabbed by an intruder with a pair of scissors. What could have led the perpetrator to kill her so ruthlessly? What started as a horrifying tragedy for this family ended up haunting them for 10 years. Sherry Black, a loving mother and grandmother, had married her high school sweetheart Earl Black in her youth. By 2010, the couple, married for over 46 years, shared a loving relationship and were living the life of their dreams in South Salt Lake City. Sherry was adored by her neighbors and relatives for her caring personality. She was always fond of books and had wanted to start a library. She was a passionate book collector, starting from her home and later expanding it to Earl's bookstore, known as B&W Billiards Books. This bookstore was a haven for book enthusiasts because the collection included rare and unique books. Sherry would have never imagined that a place where she cherished spending her time could be the place of her death. Was her passion for rare books what ultimately led to her fate? What could have gone wrong in a peaceful bookstore that resulted in this tragedy? Let's take a closer look at the fateful day. November 30th, 2010 was a calm and ordinary day in South Salt Lake when Earl Black and his employee Michael Vasquez returned home from work. Earl couldn't find Sherry at home, so he and Michael went to the bookstore to look for her. On entering, what Earl witnessed was a nightmare that would torment him forever. Sherry was lying on the ground, cold, having been stabbed to death with multiple wounds to her head, chest, and torso, which seemed to have been inflicted with a pair of scissors. Earl, completely devastated, immediately called 911 for assistance.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
Oh, my wife's been murdered. Pair of scissors sticking in her.
Is this a house or an apartment?
This is a husband.
No, are you at a house or an apartment?
I'm in a house in my shop.
What's the name of the business?
I'm in the other room, yes. Oh.
How old is your wife? Okay, is she awake?
No, she's dead.
Okay, is she breathing at all?
No, she's dead. She's cold. Oh.
Is the person who did this, could they still be nearby?
I doubt it.
Is there any serious bleeding?
No, just get here.
Okay, I do have help on the way. I need to ask you some more questions just to get help started, okay?
No, just get here.
Okay, I have help on the way too. Is there any serious bleeding?
I don't know. She had a pair of scissors sticking in her, and I pulled them out. Almighty.
Okay, I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line and I'll tell you exactly what to do next, okay? You said you already took the scissors out?
Yes. Oh.
Okay, listen carefully. I want you to lay her flat on her back and remove any pillows.
I haven't touched her.
Okay. Can you get next to her to see if we can start CPR on her?
Oh, you can't. She's cold. Oh. Oh, man. What the... Jesus Christ.
Where has she been stabbed at?
Pardon?
Where has she been stabbed at?
Oh, I don't know. In the chest. It doesn't matter. Just get here. You can't save her. She's gone.
Okay, let me give you some CPR instructions to help her, okay?
I can't handle this.
Okay, I need you to get in the room with her, and I want you to lay her flat on her back on the ground.
She's flat on her back.
Okay. I need you to kneel next to her and look in her mouth for any food or vomit, okay?
Hey, she's dead. Just get here.
So you don't want to do CPR?
She's cold. She's dead. Hey, Sherry's been murdered. Yes, get Heidi.
Do you have any idea who could have done this, sir?
I have no idea. It's a bookstore. I have no idea.
It's a bookstore?
Yes.
Where at in the business are you?
A bookstore.
No, are you, where at?
Just get somebody.
Sir, we're just arriving. Sir, we're just arriving. This is the dispatcher. Just stay on the phone with my friend, okay?
Sir, where at inside the building are you? Are you just right inside the doors, or where are you?
I'm right inside the door. Mike, you get somebody there.
Is that where your wife is at also?
She's in the bookstore here.
Do you have any idea who could have done this?
No.
Do you know what time frame this could have happened between?
Hey, I just got home. Just goodbye.
No, don't hang up, sir. Sir, are you still there?
Oh my God.
As soon as the officers reached the bookstore, they found the place completely disrupted. Sherry was lying covered in blood, with a jacket covering her chest and waist, and a pair of scissors on the floor. Both Earl and Michael were questioned. Earl mentioned that when he found Sherry naked, he pulled the scissors out from her chest and covered her body with his jacket out of respect. Michael also stated that he had known the duo for 20 years and could not imagine anyone doing this to her. After examining Sherry's body, detectives believed that the murder was likely motivated. However, no physical evidence was found to support this. Moreover, the place was in disarray when the investigators surveyed it, yet there were no signs of theft in the bookstore. As the police department investigated the area, they learned that most witnesses had seen nothing unfamiliar. Surveillance camera footage from a nearby resident captured Earl and Michael leaving around 9:30 a.m. and returning around 1:20 p.m. A few pieces of evidence were found at the crime scene, including bloodstains on the doorknob, a pair of scissors, and an Armani belt near Sherry's body. The blood was submitted for forensic examination, and later a DNA profile was developed. The results showed the DNA of a male suspect. As the investigation proceeded, Earl said that on the day of Sherry's murder, he had a meeting with a book vendor at around 10:30 a.m. The vendor had contacted Earl after Sherry's murder and told Earl that he had visited the bookstore that day. The police officers then contacted the vendor for questioning. The vendor told the police that he visited the store that day and waited for 45 minutes but couldn't find anyone there, so he left. The police speculated that Sherry had been murdered while the vendor was inside the bookstore. These suspicions led the police to call the vendor in for further investigation. The vendor visited the police station with his attorney and was cooperative. He provided all the essentials, including his DNA for examination. His results didn't match with the evidence found at the crime scene, and he was ruled out as a suspect. With days passing and no new leads, detectives contacted Sherry's friends and family and collected their DNA and palm prints for additional investigation. But the outcome was disappointing. There were no matches. Just a few weeks after Sherry's death on December 18, 2010, a similar murder of 45-year-old Christine Marie Gable was reported. The perpetrator behind Christine's death was identified as 31-year-old Paul David Vara. Christine was attacked in the same way Sherry was attacked, and this made police think that it was Paul who committed both murders. However, surprisingly, after an investigation, it was found that Paul had been in jail at the time of Sherry Black's murder. Hence, another suspect was ruled out. In 2017, Greg Miller, Sherry's son-in-law, announced a reward of $50,000 for information that would help in solving Sherry's case. This provided the detectives with different leads, but all in vain. Nothing led them to the suspect, and eventually all the leads were exhausted. As months turned into years, leaving the family in pain, the Black family never lost hope and still believed that one day the case would reach its conclusion. To keep the case in the public eye, the family took up different activities such as candlelight vigils, as well as getting media coverage for their story. After nearly 6 years of fruitless investigation, Detective Joe Sutera of the South Salt Lake Police Department, or SSLPD, who led the case, retired in 2017. After this, the case was handled by the SSLPD and the Unified Police Department of Greater Salt Lake, along with cold case detective Ben Pender of the Unified Police Department. In 2017, on the 7th anniversary of Sherry's murder, Sorensen Labs in Utah developed a genealogical profile of the suspect from the DNA collected at the crime scene. On this occasion, Greg Miller also announced an even higher reward of $250,000 for any information that helped point them towards a suspect. Despite this, no significant clues were revealed by anyone who came forward. As the case went cold, in 2018, it was ultimately taken over by Detective Pender. Detective Pender reinvestigated the victim's family and friends to find some leads, but nothing led to solving the case. Later, Detective Pender learned about Paraben Nanolabs, which was beginning to use the latest DNA technology called genetic genealogy, and he provided them with the suspect's DNA sample in the hopes that they could perhaps finally make a difference. As everything else seemed to be falling apart and all the leads were exhausted, this last ray of hope remained. In September 2020, Detective Pender received a call from Carol Rolnick from Parabon Nanolabs, who said that she had managed to trace the suspect's father and grandmother to Sacramento, California. On that particular day, Detective Pender received another call providing the same information from Dr. Barbara Ray Venter, a genetic genealogist who had simultaneously been working on the case. Detective Pender met the suspect's father and grandmother in Sacramento, California. The suspect's father told Detective Pender the suspect's name was Antonio, but he didn't know the last name because Antonio's mother had never confirmed to him that he was actually the biological father. So he had never been in the picture. The father and grandmother willingly provided their DNA samples. After putting the pieces together, Detective Pender was sure they had finally identified Sherry's killer. Now the next step was to get the suspect's DNA to confirm it was a match. After some investigative research, the suspect's name was found to be 30-year-old Adam Antonio Spencer Durborough. Detective Pender located Adam in Orem, Utah, which was 35 miles away from Sherry's bookstore. Officers kept an eye on Adam. When he left his apartment on October 3, 2020, officers followed him to the food court where he ordered himself a meal. When he finished and threw the food containers in the trash, the police were ready to collect those items for DNA testing. After testing, the police got the results on October 6, 2020. Fortunately, it was a match. A decade of pain and non-stop efforts finally brought about a breakthrough. Now, all that was left was to arrest him. A decade-old case was finally unraveled due to the latest DNA technology. After attaining the arrest warrant, 30-year-old Adam Durborough was finally arrested for interrogation on October 10, 2020. The news shook the residents of South Salt Lake City, leaving them with bittersweet emotions. Will the detectives be able to make him reveal why and what led him to commit such a heinous crime? Let's focus and see exactly how the detectives will try to extract the truth from him.
Adam, that's right?
Yes.
And then do you have a middle initial or name?
Antonio Spencer.
Okay. Where does Spencer come from?
That's actually my birth name was Antonio Spencer.
Oh, okay. And last name then is Durbo?
Durborough, yeah.
Durborough.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Durborough.
Delta Uniform Romeo, Bravo, Oscar, Romeo, Oscar, Whiskey.
Okay. Do you have a relationship? And we talked a little bit about your adopted parents, and you asked me about your father. Do you have a relationship with those parents anymore?
I do, yes.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we parents and kids, and of course,
sure.
I have a different personality than them, so we butt heads a lot, but I do care for them.
Sure. I think that's with a lot of us, though. Adopted or not, I think kids and parents butt heads quite often.
What were you into before Dungeons and Dragons?
Honestly, I didn't really, other than reading video games, working, I just kind of, I just worked, came home, just did my best.
What other things do you do other than just video games?
I like to read. I have a few books.
Yeah. Are you big into like sci-fi?
More of a fantasy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a nice thing.
Kind of takes you out of this world, huh?
Oh yeah. It's kind of lets you just forget stuff sometimes. Yeah.
Right. You do podcasts?
I listen to a few. Yeah.
Okay. What one?
Critical Role. So it's a live action Dungeons and Dragons one. I did try Irony, Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
I listened to some of those for a while. Never really got into them though.
No. We'll go ahead and get started. And I know we kind of had a conversation in the car a little bit as well. You have any idea why you're here today, Adam?
Pretty solid idea.
Okay. And I'll tell you right up front, I'll be 100% honest with you, okay, about everything. And if you have questions, if I can answer them, and I'll answer them for you. If I can't, or if they're stuff that's just confidential right now, I'll just say I can't, it's confidential information, stuff like that. But I'll be 100% honest with you about everything, okay?
As the investigator asks Adam about his background, Detective Pender is ready to delve deeper, and he wants to get to the bottom of the matter.
I'm not here to trip you up or lie to you or cause any problems or anything like that. The reason you're here today is you're here because of the Sherry Black case. We don't have you here because we're wondering if you did it or not. I know you did it, okay? I've been working this case for over 5 years. You've probably even seen me on TV before working this case, but I've been very active in this case, and today's the day really that I wanted to try to have an opportunity to talk to you about the why. It's not a matter of who, it's about the why. And listen, I know about your past a little bit. I know about your juvenile history. I know you had a very difficult upbringing, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but what I could see, it seems to me that you've kind of had a tough time in your juvenile years, and as you got older, you clearly have matured and you've changed your ways. And I can't imagine this, carrying this around with you for all these years. That would just be extremely difficult, and I can't imagine what you've gone through to have to bear this burden that occurred. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk, but I just want to tell you a little bit. I want to talk to you, so I'm not asking you any questions right now. I'm just telling you a little bit about, this case. Clearly this was somebody's mother, this was somebody's grandmother. And I think during those times when you were younger and stuff, I think you kind of took off on a bad road. But I think as you were younger and stuff, I think you kind of were exposed to different things that kind of, I think, pushed you that way too. With your mother, I think your mom has a little bit of history, and not that she's a bad mother. I just think some of the things that she was involved in and some of the people she was involved in, you probably were around and saw those types of behaviors. And as a young person, a lot of times we acclimate to that. I mean, if our parents are doing something and we think that might be okay, and in my opinion, I think that's what kind of happened here. Is I think you kind of took a different road, and things happened. And clearly, I think since that time, you've made some huge steps forward as far as changing your ways and trying to be a different person. And clearly, you have been, right? You haven't been. I can't see any type of history other than you had a couple of retail thefts as an adult. Other than that, I don't see anything there. So clearly you've been able to make some changes and positive changes in your life because of that. I can't imagine anybody else probably even knows about this. You've bottled this up inside for you for 10 years. I can't imagine holding a secret like that for 10 years without being able to talk to anybody about it and kind of get it off my chest and what have you. But you can continue down the path as when you were younger, when you were a juvenile, you can continue down that path. And yeah, it's an easier path right now. There's places to hide and things to, guard yourself a little bit from. Or you can make a change and decide, what, enough's enough. I've carried the burden long enough and I'm going to take the right path. And the right path, as you know, it is going to be a little bit bumpy at first, right? I mean, it's not an easy path to take. But I can tell you, over all the years I've been investigating homicide cases and cold case homicides and being in the same situation with you as I have been with other individuals sitting in that same seat that you're sitting in today, I can tell you when they get it off their chest, they feel a sense of relief and they feel a sense of some calmness in themselves with that, knowing that they've carried that burden around with them. I want to take the why and I want to provide that to the district attorney's office. I mean, clearly I have to screen this case with them. We've already been in contact with them, but I'm going to be screening this case with them this week. And I want to be able to go up there and say, listen, this is what happened. I mean, times were different for him than they are today. This is a different person today. And this is the explanation behind it. Versus just going up and saying, here's our case and we're going to charge him. To me, it makes a lot better sense to be able to provide the district attorney's office a why and kind of personalize you, right? I mean, you're not just anybody or a number. You're an individual, and I want them to see that about you. I truly feel bad for whatever happened to you in your younger years. I think you had a tough time with your mom and with people that she was associating with probably when she was here locally. And then you get in foster or get adopted, you get adopted. And then this situation with your adopted father happens. When I found that out, it's like, does this guy ever get a break? I truly did. I mean, I just feel like he goes probably from one situation that's not probably the best for a child to be in to another one where you think you're going into a good, wholesome, safe place. And then another situation happens. And it's like, where does this young man get a break at? I want to be able to talk to the family and tell them, listen, this is what happened and this is why it happened. And I can't promise you anything, but here's been my experience. People that cooperate, I tend to think judges, juries, families, people tend to be a little bit more willing to work with that. I don't want to pressure you. I'm not trying to force you to do anything. You, at the end of the day, you're going to make your own decision because, like I said, I know coming here in the car, you said if you're going to talk to me about anything, I want legal representation, and you are entitled to that for sure. Absolutely, you are. It's something I couldn't do today. I would have to go and obviously book you into jail and charge you today with that. But again, I would like the opportunity to be able to go up to the district attorney's office this week and be able to personalize this a little bit with them and explain a little bit more of kind of what was going on in that time in your life. And, again, there might be somewhat of an explanation for all of this too.
Adam's silence indicates him accepting the truth, but will he be able to confess to the crime?
Just trying to think.
Sure. Take your time.
When you guys stopped me today, I knew. I mean, I haven't done anything else in my life. But I definitely felt some relief, which sounds odd. I mean, if it's hurt so much for years, why not just come forward, right? But it's just been one of those things where it's like, I have so many people in my life now that I just didn't want to. That's so selfish.
It's not. I know it sounds like it is, but it's really not, Adam.
This family's been, I see them, they ask for answers, and I've just been. It's been a long 10 years. Probably shouldn't say this without a lawyer, but honestly, it's just they do need to know. I went into that store and I had no intention at all to do anything. This is a bookstore. I love books. It was just, I don't know. I was just looking through. There's no one else in the store. And it'd been a rough week. I remember that. I was being told I wasn't making the progress that they wanted to see. My mom was super stressed out. She was afraid that I was just going to be another number in the system again. And I was so angry, and I don't know, I just lashed out. It just happened. She was there, and it's a mistake that I wish every day that I had never ever made. I was young. I was stupid. I was so angry. I was so confused. It wasn't personal. It wasn't planned. It was spontaneous. And I'm sorry that I did it. Not just that I've been caught for doing it, but I am sorry that I did it. I wish I could take it back.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about this, but before I do, obviously I'd have to read you your Miranda rights. And like I said, I know we had talked about this in the vehicle, and you specifically said that, if you're going to ask me any questions, I'd want some representation. Have you changed your mind? Are you willing to talk to me right now about this and allow me to ask some questions about this?
Yeah, well, I'll answer as much as I can right now.
Okay. Do you understand your rights as I have explained them to you?
Yes.
Are you willing to talk to me and Detective Child here without consulting a lawyer or having a lawyer present with you?
Yes.
If there's something that I ask and you don't want to answer, just say I don't want to answer. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay.
Adam's instant confession reveals his guilt. He appears remorseful for his actions. Adam is cooperative and willingly accepts to proceed with the interrogation. Detective Pender wants to know the exact details and the motive that drove Adam to such extreme lengths.
The first question I have is, do you have any ties? Did you ever have any ties to that bookstore? Had you ever been there before?
No, that was the first time.
That was your first time?
I'd been by it a couple of times. I just never really gone in before.
Okay. And how did you know the bookstore was there?
There was a sign up front.
Okay.
I don't remember what the sign said, but I do remember there being a sign.
at the very beginning of kind of the day, that's around the time, and just kind of walk me through of, how did you get there? I mean, those types of things. I mean, to get me into the bookstore. Where did you come from?
Start of the day, or?
Yeah, let's start the day. Let's start that day of what you can remember.
I think it was a Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday or Thursday, I had therapy that day. I remember that. Yeah, I left the foster home, just took the bus. I was thinking for a while. Like I said, the day before, it was just Proctor parents had the talk with me. They weren't super happy. My mom was super disappointed, super worried about me. But I remember I got off the bus and I was just walking and walking for a while. It wasn't long before the therapy session when I saw the building and looked at the time, figured I had enough time to just try to just look around for a bit. So I entered the store. Asked if she had a particular book series in stock. She didn't. I didn't realize that she specialized in certain kinds of books. So, but I decided to look around anyways because I love books. I couldn't really just get into any of them. I was just stewing, just kind of silently fuming, I guess. She was concerned. She walked over and asked if everything was fine. Told her it was fine. I didn't need any help at the time. She smiled and turned away. And there was just a pair of scissors nearby. And I picked them up. And I hit her. I just hit her in the back of the head. And it's just kind of, I couldn't tell you. I was just so angry. I don't know why. Just so angry and just so, I ran out of that store. I'm surprised nobody saw me. I was just running. I don't know if I had blood I don't remember if I had any blood on my face or anything, but I just ran. I didn't stop until I got to my therapist's office, just like a 10, 15-minute run, I think. I didn't realize what I had done until I was in the bathroom just scrubbing. So I was actually, my current Proctor family was on vacation and they didn't take me, so I was with another family in Magna.
In Magna. Okay.
So I took the bus from Magna.
And then how did you get up to their residence?
I took another bus.
And then where did you get off from that bus?
I don't remember. Like I said, I got off at one point and then just walked and walked.
Okay. Were you thinking about going to the bookstore, or
no? I didn't.
You were just going on the bus.
Yeah, like I said, I've never really noticed it before.
Okay, so you go to the bookstore. How did you enter into the bookstore? From what door?
Someone I left, so I assume just the front one.
The front door. Okay. Yeah. What does that face? As far as what area does that face? Does it face the street? Okay. So you go to that door. In that door, it's open.
It was open, yeah.
Okay. Was a sign on or anything indicating that it was open?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe it was a flip sign.
So you go into the store. Anybody else there?
No, it's just me and her.
Just you and her. You and Sherry. Okay.
Me and Sherry.
So you go in there, you kind of start looking around. You asked her about a series. What series did you ask her that you were looking for, book-wise? Do you remember?
No.
And she said she didn't have whatever that series was?
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of just started looking around the store. Okay. And I know this is the tough part, but this is where we need to dive in a little bit deeper with what actually happens inside of the store. I know you said you had grabbed the scissors. You hit her in the head. Was she facing away from you when you hit her in the head?
Yes. I'm sure you know the layout of the place.
Right.
But it was not in the main area where the cashier station was.
Okay.
It was kind of that secondary room where the two tables were.
Okay. Is it the secondary room behind the cash register, or is it the other secondary room?
The other secondary
room. Okay.
Not the one behind the register.
Okay. So you go into that secondary room and she's in there?
No, she wasn't in there.
Okay.
She actually came up to me and asked if everything was okay.
Right. Right.
Probably had just a really big frown on my face.
Sounds like she kind of sensed that something was bothering you probably too, huh?
Yeah, that's where I attacked her.
So you attacked her in the back room? And you said that secondary room?
In that kind of, that side room.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand it. So you had mentioned you grabbed the scissors and you hit her in the head. And I said, did you hit her in the head in that secondary room? Is that accurate to say? Or was she not back there yet?
No, she was back there.
She was back there. Was her back towards you then? What was she doing in there?
She was turning away, like to walk back towards the main area.
When this initially takes place, where are you, in the main area of the store, or are you guys now in the back, into one of the secondary rooms?
No, we're in the main area.
You're in the main area. Okay. So she's walking away, and you say you grabbed some scissors. Where did you see the scissors at?
They were on the table, on one of the tables next to me.
Okay.
They were heavy scissors, very thick.
Okay. How big? Can you kind of give me an idea size-wise?
They were almost yay big.
So you're kind of putting your hands out like about, I'm estimating,
shorter.
6 to 8 inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like those heavy shearing scissors.
Right. Okay. Do you remember the color of them?
Silver.
And just all silver? Any other color on them?
Just silver.
Just silver. Okay. So you said you'd hit her with the scissors?
Several times.
Several times. And that's as she's walking away from you?
Yeah.
Okay. What is she doing at this time?
She screamed. I don't remember everything here. I've tried, because there are parts, the news, there was a report that you found my belt, and I was like, I don't remember ever taking off my belt, but here we are.
Was that your belt?
I think so. I don't know.
Well, did you later realize you didn't have a belt on that day?
Well, no, that's the thing. Like, I had a belt, because, I ran, and I used to wear baggy pants.
Okay.
And running in baggy pants without a belt is just impossible. That has always thrown me. Like, I don't remember taking off any belt, but you guys said that you found a belt at the scene, so I've always just kind of been like...
Well, I'm sure you've seen the belt on the news and all over. Is that your belt?
No, I wore studded belts. It was a phase.
So you don't think that was your belt?
I don't think it was, no. The kind of belts I wear are the kind I'm wearing now, and then back then studded belts.
Okay. Is there a reason why your DNA would be on that belt?
I touched it at one point, honestly, but I don't remember. At one point, I do remember I picked up, it was by her, like, I forget her cashier station, it was this bottle. And I picked it up and hit her over the back of the head with it.
Okay. And where is she at that time when you're hitting her over the head?
She's on the ground at this point.
And
still in that area.
In the main area of the bookstore?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I just punched her in the chest a couple times. Pushed on her chest and just felt something I don't know,
I know this is really hard for you, Adam, and I really appreciate your willingness and your truthfulness.
Adam's motive is so shocking and odd that it seems difficult to believe. But Detective Pender knows there might be another hidden motive behind this gruesome act.
You and I both know there's more to this story. You know, you've had to rethink this many, 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 many times over the last nearly 10 years. Were you attracted to her?
No.
What all happened in that bookstore, Adam?
I can't answer right now.
You can answer that question. So after the fact, after you had left that bookstore that day, as time went on, did you keep an eye on this case?
Somewhat.
And did you keep an eye like on the internet or stuff like that to see kind of what was going on, or anniversaries? And obviously it was out in the public, right? Quite a bit.
I read now and then, honestly. But honestly, I just tried to pretend that it wasn't me.
Did you kind of keep an eye on things as far as during the anniversaries when there was statements made, kind of progress? I mean, keeping an eye on whether or not they're closing in on somebody or anything?
2017, I think it was 17, there was the, just KSL came out with that they had just gone through with some DNA testing. So I figured it was only a matter of time. After that, I just kind of periodically looked in and just waited.
Have you told anybody about this?
No.
Okay.
How could I?
I mean, of course, you're 19 at the time. Who's going to run and tell on themselves at that point, right? I mean, and as years went on, I mean, hoping that it would just go away. And kind of like you said, you just kind of try to put it out of your mind as like it never happened. I mean, and that's understandable. And I think most people would see it that way as well. But I think there's some explanations why you were that person back then. And unfortunately, I think you were raised in, sounds like maybe a single family home to begin with your mother, which is always challenging for anybody. And it sounds like she kind of had some of her issues as well. And unfortunately, you were probably exposed to some of those folks that probably weren't the very best influence on you. And then, as we talked about earlier, you got adopted and you get into that situation, and then there's problems there too. You just didn't come in off the street and go in there and do this and didn't care about it. There was other things going on in your life at the time.
Adam, but you showing this emotion, this is a good step. I, sitting here and listening to this, believe you are truly sorry for what you did. We could get through this. This family needs some closure. And only you can provide that for them.
You mentioned on our way here, Adam, about your little sister passing away. And I know just talking to you, I still believe you're a man of somewhat of faith and believe in things. And I think you believe that you'll see her again someday. And today is your day. Today is your day to unload this, tell the truth, and that's what your sister would want you to do. You were a different person, like you said. I mean, you were with the Proctors, like you said, and I mean, you were having a tough time. And even you admitted it with your mother. Your mom thought you were just going to be another number as well. What happened that morning at the bookstore, Adam? I mean, I think you've been upfront about everything up to this point. I just think there's more in the bookstore that occurred.
There's not much more that occurred.
I want to be able to go in there and say, listen, we sat down and had a visit, and he took responsibility. He's a different person today. He's not the 19-year-old back in 2010. He's not that young man anymore. He's a different person. He's changed his life. You've been to the trade schools. You've had full-time employment. You changed your ways shortly thereafter and have to this day. And that's why I believe, number one, I believe you are truly sorry. I mean, you said that. I believe that you are. But you've clearly made changes in your life. And that's positive too. And that's going to be looked at as well, right? I mean, they're going to look at that. A lot of times in these cases, the perpetrators just keep on going on, right? But you haven't done that. You stopped. You stopped and you made positive changes. You've done some things with your life.
Me talking about this. My life as it is, I'm sober. Me talking about this just kind of finalizes it, though. It's hard to let that go. Again, it's selfish. I'm being selfish. But then, like I said, they deserve to know.
Nobody can take away from you what you've accomplished. Nobody can take away that from you, okay? Nobody. You've accomplished those things in life, and nobody can take that away. You are a young man. You have your life ahead of you, Adam. We need to know everything that happened. Adam, you're a good person. You really are. You are a good person. You made a mistake when you were young.
I am a decent person.
You're a good person.
Who has tried to live the best he could after a mistake. I don't see myself as a monster, but a good person would have turned themselves in, honestly.
Maybe a good person who is maybe in their late 20s, early 30s would have, if they committed that crime then. But at the age of 19, like I said, it's like your mid-20s, and I think you could probably attest to that as well. gets in your mid-20s is kind of when we all of a sudden start figuring stuff out as young men, right? I wouldn't have expected you at the age of 19 to turn yourself in, or 20 or 21. I just wouldn't.
I don't remember when, but I tried to cut her throat open. You remember that? Same scissors. I didn't put myself inside her. I didn't have sex with her. I don't remember how I cut myself or when I cut myself. I do remember I was bleeding from my hand somewhere for sure. That's all I remember.
So when you talked about taking off her bra, and then you said you just looked at her. At this point, what is Sherry doing?
Sherry's dead.
She's dead. When you leave, do you take anything from the store?
No.
No books? No money? Nothing?
I ran.
Just ran. You initially go back here and she's walking away from you, that's right. So she's already gone through that back door?
Yeah.
And that's the first time you hit her with the scissors? Okay. So everything else then occurs here?
Yeah.
Okay. Does she fall right to the ground initially?
No, she staggered. So I hit her several times.
How many times do you think? Just an approximate time.
I don't know, man.
More than 10?
Possibly.
Possibly more than 10? And at some point she just collapses then? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to kind of get a picture of when does she actually pass? Is that before or after you're cutting your throat?
I wish I could say. Honestly, I don't remember. I don't know.
Adam agrees to write a letter of apology to the victim's family to take responsibility for what he did. His confession also displays that he seems to have worked on himself to become a better person, especially as he has never involved himself in any other crime after Sherry's murder.
Would you be willing to write the family a letter of apology?
No.
I mean, that stuff means a lot to people, and to be able to hear that from you. I mean, you don't need to talk about details, but would you be willing to just, kind of express your...
You work with a family. Is that something they'd want for me?
Yeah, it means a lot to families. I had another case many years ago, and actually the family, the husband was already deceased. It was the wife that had passed away in this incident, and they just had extended family. But even with the extended family, it really meant a lot coming from him. Just showed that the person had taken responsibility and actually was remorseful for what happened.
Sure.
I'll step out for a little bit and give you some time. Okay. All right. Thank you. You all done?
Yeah.
Okay. You mind signing it there at the bottom for him? Any other cases out there?
No.
This is it?
This is it.
Okay. No other things you were involved with after this occurred that would catch up to you or anything?
It's what I've earned. Going forward is what I've earned, but my whole life ahead of me is just going to be behind walls. There's really nothing I can do about it because I was young and stupid. Didn't think, where will this take me on the road? It's just my life now. I really am sorry. This is a decision that just rocks so many people's lives. Just mine. It's every day. I've driven down the freeway, seen her face. Just every year. I'm like, that should just do it. Just turn yourself in. Just get it over with. But then I look at everything I worked for. I'm like, I can't just throw this away. I worked so hard for this. I've come so far. I can't just throw it away, even if I should.
You're going to put your hands behind your back?
Adam's troublesome relationship with his parents, his juvenile record, and his years of conflict and piled up aggression are what turned his life upside down and have now led him behind bars. In October of 2020, Adam was taken to South Salt Lake Adult Detention Center, where he was booked with a homicide charge.
After a shocking and baffling homicide, prosecutors today charged an Orem man with aggravated murder in the death of South Salt Lake grandmother Sherry Black. Today, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill revealed how DNA evidence finally cracked this decade-long cold case.
I think there is a sense of certain relief because when you have a murder and the murderer suspect is not identified, then there is always this unknown that's in our community. So I think there is a great sense of relief.
A year later in 2021, Adam entered a guilty plea for murdering Sherry Black in 2010. On February 23, 2022, Adam was officially given a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Sherry Black was found beaten and stabbed to death in her bookstore in South Salt Lake on November 30th, 2010. Today, the man responsible for her death was sentenced to life without parole.
Carrying the pain for a decade, this was an overwhelming, bittersweet moment for the Black and Miller family. The families finally got some form of closure and now have a chance to move on.
On of a new day, we are going to put him behind us, and we are going to do good things, and we're going to remember her, and we're just going to focus on the positive and remember the great memories, and the great memories won't take us down that rabbit hole, but if we could only, we can just focus on the good now.
The shocking motive prompts an essential question. How could it ever be justified to kill due to living an unsatisfying and insignificant life? Could the perpetrator's life have been different today if his parents or society had intervened earlier? What are your thoughts and insights on this case? Share in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Real Crime Psychology as we continue uncovering such fascinating cases.